Okay, so we're back again today with just a morning message. I mean, this morning it was extremely obvious to me that, part of what I'm really inheriting and wielding at this time is not just like a really comprehensive reflection on the amount of growth that I've seen in myself and in my awareness and in my consciousness. And again, I will always be so grateful that the work that I do centers like holding space for the things that I'm not conscious of. Because if those things are amazing, that's one thing. But if there are things that are like, if there are intense moments of growth, or if there are things that I'm not aware of yet, but I'm going to be learning through, like, I want to be able to feel safe to experience life. And I think that is what I would say the biggest disservice in like the very non-safe media landscape that we've created is that the things that you're watching, because again, we could break apart the model for this, but where things are being sourced, I mean, is essentially everything. And for so many things to be sourced from things that are in such bad condition, I mean, that's all that's getting broadcasted, and then that's all that's getting consumed, So, I mean, there has got to be some break in transparency. There's got to be some truth. We've got to release ourselves from the purgatory of the illusion that what we're doing and how we were conducting ourselves was at all contributing to our well-being or to the integration of ourselves as whole sovereign beings. Like, there's just, at some point, where I stand, where my husband is standing, what we've been collaborating on is all about, like, very much the message today, I feel like Spirit was saying, is like, this is a time of like relying on a whole picture. And I see a discernment developing in me that kind of really says, for whatever it's worth, like, when you look at me, it's foolproof in terms of how it feels, what you see, what you're downloading, how you connect, and most importantly, what I'm transparent enough to show, what I'm able to own, which is all of myself. I think that being said, that is the new standard, and this is that moment where I understand myself to be the new standard for living and for well-being. And not that that's about it being good or bad, but when you create yourself as a standard in your own life, you finally stand up, you finally join and jump in, you finally go to a big enough pond, you're finally in the ring of life. Because if you are the standard, everything is in reference to you, which is truly the nature of this universe. And breaking free from the mirrored paradigm to where you really are free and sovereign, where the things that I attract are not go beyond just like simple learning and development and duality, but rather represent this like one of one energy signature. And that's kind of the world we'll be navigating through now. But I think it's really important to express that our standards have changed, and I just kind of wanted to come in today with the demeanor and the understanding that I feel like what I expect out of others. I don't put together, now this would be the 90th video, and I can't think of a better way to celebrate 90 succinct lecture style presentations than to say, like, for me to be holding myself to the standard and not be holding others to the same standard would be a disservice to myself, and it's affecting the way that I'm properly integrating into the third dimension, into the world that I live in. And I don't mean like the third dimension of old previous paradigm, I just mean into the physical world. Like, if I'm ever going to really see my timelines merge into a physical being, I've got to be able to hold that level of consistency for myself and for others. No more of this, I'm my hardest critic. Like, if I'm going hard on me, that's just the standard. I just go hard, that's just what it is. And I think it is astounding at this point what people are not beneath 444 honestly doing to other people. The song that comes to mind is Data Thief by Slumpy Melatonin. And you know, that whole premise about, you know, these consciousness consumers, these people who will eat up your consciousness in the unconscious space in exchange for money, power, access, you know, whatever the personal gain may really be. And you know, that's a newly unexplored territory, but it doesn't, it's easy now. It's not even something to flesh out. I think it can remain at a human understanding, like what is just and balanced within our universe and what is not, you know. I was talking to my husband about, you know, certain characters that might also be coming up at this time are, you know, be very weary of individuals who like really enjoy consuming a certain thing that they would not otherwise energetically, truthfully contribute to. So, you know, we were kind of witnessing a lot of people that I think it's a really interesting archetype, people who really love art and spend a lot of their time like creating libraries or, you know, curating this whole taste of art, you know. And I always wonder, I mean, art is life and life is art. So, you know, the entryway into that can be really anything beyond our limitations. But when we really think about people who want to assemble all this art or hide behind this sort of taste, you know, as an artist, what safety do I have? Like, what is being revealed of you, you know? And so when I see these people and when they want to get really close to me, you know, I have to be honest, as well intending as that may be, you know, it's also really important for me to stand in the awareness that like shared intention and commonality is really what I'm trying to align with. And being on my path and having the same work is honestly what I only have time for at this time, you know, because there's just so much depth to go into with what I've been given in my life, and I can always be doing that, going deeper in me. So I'm really not seeking out, you know, things that I feel like, again, are unbalanced. It's not about good or bad. It's not it's not a judgment, you know, of music lovers or, you know, art collectors or people who really want to make careers that are about talking about other things. You know, it's fine to, you know, want to be trying to identify with a role that makes you feel like that, like a certain energy signature. But the idea here is that there is no particular energy signature. There's just you and your energetic blueprint and the authenticity of that, and that's all that's ringing true. And, you know, so again, like, I think that there are some real concrete sort of sobering messages that are kind of coming through that just remind me of how important it is to reiterate first and foremost here, if this is the first time you've ever heard somebody with real gusto say, like, I'm really concerned with your conscious ascension and with you feeling protected to start where you are, and knowing that that's not optimal consciousness, knowing there's a lot you're not aware of, that you're not living conscious of, you know, knowing that that's what this journey will require you to surrender to, which, you know, there's no room for the ego or the faint of heart. You know, it's really for those who are trying to strengthen and build the connection to themselves and these channels so that they remain clear and so that spirit can flow, breath can flow, and life continues to populate, you know. And that's what I really want to do here. But if you've never heard that before, like, I'm always happy to start here, but I also want to make sure that beyond this space, I don't even just want it to be that people come to this space and feel like they can breathe or hear themselves or think their thoughts or feel safe to be held in what's going on, be held accountable, but not feel like there's anything to run from or to be scared of being judged by. Like, I want people to come here and feel that way, but I also want them to take away the discernment and the specification and the closeness that's needed to be to your own story in order for this to really work out, you know. And again, I think we're really walking away from the illusions, from things that don't offer, things that want to just hold stale water, things that don't want to perpetuate the flow. I think that's kind of what the Eight of Cups I just saw in this kind of pre-shuffle. Here it is again, but the Eight of Cups in the Venusian Tarot really gives that energy of just like, you know, it's all the mirage that the Eight of Cups has some sort of fulfillment for you, but, you know, this water is stale, it doesn't move, it hasn't moved. Like, you know, there's energy to that, there's a stagnancy to that. That's why you have to keep moving. Eventually, what's achieved in the Eight of Cups can't stay still. That's so funny that that just happened. 1000. I said we have to move, and that the moving on is to the Nine of Cups, to, you know, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think, you know, us being able to move on. I think that what we're not expecting is for, you know, there was a lot of spell casting that was happening in some of these eclipse portals that we were having, and some of the solar energy. And I really think I'm going to be surprised by everything that was written and prophesied and spoken and continually held at that vibration. I'm going to be surprised how I'm able to really just jump into doing all of that. Like, you know, and it isn't trauma. It isn't bad. There are certain things. There were intermediary steps that were also part of our justice, part of seeds being planted. You know, there's something about some of the recent achievements I've had at a third dimensional level that I think I wanted to know I could do, and wanted to right the wrong that was done. And I believe I've done that, and I've come to peace with that. And now I'm kind of going into the day knowing how easy it was and how strong I really could have been. But everything is going to change on the other end of today, seriously, for me. And it's because this letter is coming in, this truth, this Knight of Swords, which is directly coming at you quickly, is coming in, and you're seated as the Nine of Cups. You've moved on from the things that can't flow, right? When we talked about yesterday's video, Eight of Cups is really what the energy felt like when we're talking about the end of that paradigm, which is these cups may be filled, but they're not. They don't have a water source. So like once these are drunken, they're going to just be empty cups. There's no way to replenish them. So, you know, it's when you realize that arrival isn't really the point, you know what I mean? Sourcing is really the point, being the person to source the life you live on, not just having somebody give you, you know, the Eight of Cups is really like, you can give a man fish, but you know, they'll never be able to, and they can eat for a day. But if you don't teach a man how to fish, then they're always going to be reliant on you, and they'll have to always come back to the Eight of Cups, hoping that there's some water or some replenishment there. But to be in the Nine of Cups today, I mean, it's just, again, it's the day where everything that we have done, everything that we have put ourselves and positioned ourselves. Dennis has really been talking about the positioning being so astounding, how we positioned ourselves in this space. And, you know, it's like, truthfully, I really agree. Truthfully, I really feel like it's the sort of thing that, you know, we've positioned ourselves to really source everything we're doing and to be ready to go with everything we're doing. And we're not waiting on, you know, someone else to put us on. We're waiting for repayment. We're waiting for the discovery that there needs to be a financial institution backing 1331 I just saw, backing what's happening here, because of the work that we're doing. Like, I'm not waiting for anything other than the recognition. And I think for a long time too, you know, fears of success or whatever the case may be kept me from really acknowledging that, like, what I'm waiting, the big alignment, the big rain replenishment that's coming will be replenishing the work that I've done. It's going to be replenishing what I'm doing, you know. And that's what this Knight of Swords is about. It's about who you really are. And, you know, this 90 video series is indicative of who I really am. It's the reason that, like, in a year's time, I can't follow, you know, any one reader, you know, through a year really without that really holds me in the level of maturation and growth and change that I go through. You know what I mean? I'm never able to really connect with those words. They're not eternal words, you know, and I was really raised to understand the living word, you know, and the living word is the exact root of sustainability. And that's all I've ever wanted to create. That's all I've ever wanted to do, is give words that give life, that are alive, you know. And when they're alive, you can tell that, yes, you could rewatch one of these videos and I may not look the same, or be in the same space or have the same circumstance or whatever the case may have really been in the video, but you can always acknowledge that what's being said transcends something. And so this Nine of Cups is extremely, I mean, it's just, it's so positive. And I was looking at this clip that I had of myself from May, and you know, I thought to myself about how much, when I was really who I am, when I was really situated as who I authentically was, receiving and interacting with the world was like being nourished for the first time. And so when I stopped really wearing masks and really started embracing getting as close to the truth of it as I can, you know, fearlessly running towards that and like somehow deriving like unreal beauty, you know, in doing that, in who I am now. Like when I started that journey, it really, I think, showed me how much more I could be getting from this earth, how much that the universe is benevolent and wants to provide for me and wants me to feel really safe. And you know, I have to believe that it is so much bigger. I have to really stay recommitted that like what I'm doing here has always been and will always be about keeping my life on track, you know, keeping the exploration that I'm currently undergoing underway, you know, and really staying in love and staying focused on the love, staying focused on my heart chakra and all the work it does to bridge the tethered experience, you know, on this earth plane. And I am so excited to spend the rest of my days really doing this and moving, because the schedule and the patterning is me. It's who I am, you know, and because this is a living word, like there's no such thing as frequency, and there's just joy, because a lot of people, also the new videos that I'm putting out are like new to me as I'm experiencing the energy, which is why they come into form at this time. But I don't think that the average person would really start here necessarily. You start wherever you are, you know, and that's what's so important about this channel, and that's what I keep finding is so loving and kind and wise about the space that I've carved out. And that's why it's worth so much, you know, it's worth so much, and it's going to renew me so much. But this is what I mean when you really are the source of your life, when you receive compliments, admiration, truth. Receiving the truth is even different when you're in authenticity, because you could not be letting your authenticity live out and still be receiving the truth, because that's your authenticity is what's attracting everything to your life anyways. You can't turn it on and off. You're still it, you know, you're still who you really are, whether you mask it or not. But the thing is, when you're aligned to it, when you're embracing it, when you're standing in the Nine of Cups, you know what I mean, is like, come drink from this, you know, well of truth, because you're drinking from the truth of who I am. When that happens, like the way that you receive the truth is like your flowers are always given. And now, you know, I think my husband and I have really cracked the code too in life, death, and the afterlife, in understanding like how to complete the circuit for the artist. What does the artist really need? How do we create, like, what is really giving the artist flowers, and how do we align to that vibration to where like it's equal input and output, that the artist isn't just in service and therefore like the archetype gets like super diluted and saturated. Like we have to be able to really find a way for ourselves to grow and change, which is what we're really desiring, because it's not even the art or the discipline or the modality that we're doing that's really doing the thing, but that we're living a life worthy of the art, you know? And if you find yourself with a really strong ability to channel a certain discipline, like, know that your life has to match that bigness. And the depression comes when the gift outweighs the life lived. Duh. We know the 27 Club. We know the people who are just like a breakdown, because the way our society was set up was to not acknowledge that you're a soul whatsoever. So a lot of these people need, again, like if you have an overactive chakra for whatever reason, if you're, you know, like for me as a kid, not being, you know, limited, even with the very supportive, esoteric childhood that I really had, like there were still a lot of limitations to my channeling. And the more I limited my ability to like do something with this energy, the more depression and much that I struggled with anxiety, which I was just thinking about again, anxiety really being deeply rooted spiritually to a disconnection or a lack of faith, essentially. You know, it's deferring one to the mind body is the only body. And the mind body has now correlated the pain you're feeling with a lack of faith. Like the universe, it's like a victimhood. Like the universe is causing me pain, rather than pain being an indicator of something not being on your path. So it's an inertia. It's a halt, it's a stop. But that's what anxiety really is at like a spiritual level. But I was developing a lot of that really fast, and it was coming like deeply out of union with my body. But that was really just because I wasn't making space for what you can obviously see here. Like, this is a commitment, because there are plenty of readers on YouTube who I can't even believe they have like 3,000 videos. But it's gonna just, it's like how, and that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, at some point there has to be some code of ethics. Like, this library is beautiful, but it is also discerning, and it is the content and the ability and the channeled messaging. It takes a form of its own, and it communicates in a language that's focused on like group work. Like, we're doing work together. And I'm doing so much in every word that I'm really commanding here, that I think that's why so much gets done from a viewer's perspective. Like, I can go back and watch this, and this video could like move something for me, and I could be just sitting down, or I could be doing something else. I could be cleaning, I could be like working on something. And this message is also simultaneously exercising and working something within my spirit. And, when I think about, the amount of media, or the amount of even just like, readers or healers or energy workers, like, it's a call. This is also a platform for their replenishment and their renewal, because a lot of them have set up these inefficient systems where they're pumping out content, and it's this one direction, third dimensional, expired timeline, which is that, like, remember, the communication starts with the sender and ends with the sender. You send something out, it's received, and their response and feedback is given back. The feedback is the reflection of self. That is the completed circuit, right? You don't stop here. It's not 180, it's 360 to complete it, right? And I think the unsafe media is media that just goes out and it doesn't come back. You know what I mean? And that's why we've got all these creators in this media sphere who are able to disassociate, because the personas that they've let essentially become, it's a possession at this point. When you're addicted to media, or you're addicted to, a device or a certain technology, and the media that you can produce through that technology, well, now you're possessed by the archetype you present. And that presentation is easy to disassociate with, because nobody is getting back the ick of what they're putting out that they think doesn't have to come back to them. One thing I always say is that I really, really would want you to be skeptical of anybody who says that they're channeling something that doesn't apply to them. Oh, it always applies, because it can't not be filtered through I, what I mean, through who I am. So it's God matter, of course. That's the objective universal. That's the oneness. That's the wholeness of it all. But it's coming out of my mouth. You know what I mean? And that's meant to support my human being, that like the reason it's coming out of me is to acknowledge the gift that is. Acknowledge that, like, this wisdom came out of me. You know what I mean? And I'm 26 right now, given this level of insight and clarity and truth to my experience, and to how, to the best of my ability, like, if the earth gave me these favorable placements that would say, like, things come out of my mouth with clarity, because there's a harmony and there's a trine in terms of the wind in my body. Like, I'm predominantly air in terms of elemental makeup. So, a heavy air dominant person at their highest is intended to really have a lot of flow. So things that have to do with the spirit really come naturally to me. And so because I have that gift, then it's great when I do step into service, which is mission. Like, I'm not like I'm chosen, but I choose to decode what divine messaging is available to everybody. And there is the discrimination. There is value to what I am doing here. Like, this isn't to say that there aren't people with big energy signatures that are meant to do large scale levels of work, communicate to large levels of people. But that, I'm saying, is a much more authentic, honest, natural space, and will naturally well from the ground up based on lived experience and energetic feeling, right? Like, who I am and the impact that I have is gonna just rise if whatever lane I'm supposed to be in is truly the truth for me. And so, there's no telling you what my bag is. There's really nothing, there's not even really an over personification. Like, the perception of who I am also, there's a narrative being created here because there's so much that you don't see about my life. You know what I mean? I really come here to do a service, and that requires that I, uphold the level of access, so that this is accessible not to just some random person, but to me at all times. I will be so many different people, and I wanted to start creating now moments, versions of Alexis that in, any length of time when I look back, I'm not ashamed to connect with that person. I'm not feeling like that person wouldn't have been open to who I grew into. So that's what I'm closing off. That's the circuit I'm closing off, is that I know I'll be different. I know I'm not going to be the same a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever the case may be, But the idea is that I could love and embrace and cherish who this is right now, who I'm recording into history right now. Because who I'm recording into history couldn't stop marveling at who I would go on to be in the future, And so when we connect those timelines and we make a space for it, which this is just my heart chakra, this is the space of that, what my husband channels, with his label is like that's the space that both of those places commit to coming to, my future self and my current self commit to Virgo Saint North Node, I know who I was in a past life, and knowing that information really allows me to see, towards the end of my lifetime, I really oriented towards, I know if I got another chance, I would have known exactly where to start, and it would have been really beelining it to this sort of sainthood within myself. And the way that I would really refer to sainthood is, again, being able to connect with the eternal part of you. That's the sainthood. That's what makes me in my saintliness right now, That's what it really is there is a thread between this version of me and a version of me that may post a video at a different date that's later than this. But the common thread is what is sequencing this into an archive. It's what's giving you a perception of who I am as a person. It's what's making you deeply understand what it means to be alive. It's what's awakening you to who you always were and always are going to be, And that to me is a movement worth making. That to me, of all the movements I've pioneered in every lifetime, ones that ended in really negative legacies and ones that ended in really positive legacies, this by far is the first time that I will be able to live long enough to have understood, again, life, death, and afterlife, and really in that also understand legacy and understand that I am now placing myself in the legacy of my past to suffer through the conditions that my lesser consciousness caused, to now correct the karma, correct what was created, and move forward and now create a new legacy that can house safely all the future versions of myself that who knows if I'm interested in coming back and birthing myself into something in the future that I am reliving. But look at this. I just put the deck again. This is bringing in the sunshine. This is bringing in the conscious awareness of what we're doing. And it's really beautiful, again, to be at a Nine of Cups place. I love the Nine of Cups. It's just such you've gotten to the point of life. And it's also such an indicator. I think the Nine of Cups, you're usually so overwhelmed with sourcing everything in your life that you're not really, this is a huge download coming in. Woo, Spirit, I want to take this all in. In the Nine of Cups, you are so concerned with the fact that you can now provide all of this. You can completely outsource yourself. This is living on a homestead and there's a difference between people who every day have to get themselves, and then there's people who can rely on technology or convenience to make things happen. Some people can literally live 24 hours a day and not have to do anything for themselves. And that doesn't mean this or that, but it just means when we're talking about sourcing, you're not relying on anything else. So in terms of what you're going to eat and how you're going to get it, how you're going to get to work, how you're going to work, what you're going to create money, all of that, what you listen to, what you read, what you consume is all your own. That's the Nine of Cups. Now, when you're at that place, because you're so busy, marveling almost at the fact that you could get drunk off your own supply. This is in the time in life when you can literally get high off your own supply. That's what I'm literally hearing Spirit say. This is us getting high off our own supply And then what you don't realize, though, that people don't realize, is like, so you leave the Eight of Cups because the Eight of Cups is still someone giving you a fish versus teaching you. Eight of Cups is like gatekeeping. It's like, yeah, I'll let you drink from this, but like, I'm not going to show you how I'm refilling these cups. You know what I mean? So you have to walk away because you still haven't found the answer as to how did they fill those cups up. And that's what you gain in the Nine of Cups. Walking, the best way to learn how to fill your own cups up is to give yourself the opportunity to fill them up yourself. That's all it really takes. That's what I'm really telling you. Like, as someone who identifies in, you know, as an artist and, you know, works with, you know, another artist in every moment of every day, there's just so much about just as simple as divesting, like literally, like the simple, like, you know, the idea of like a cold turkey cutout, like, you know, not doing certain things and supplementing it with other things. Like, you know, if Dennis really needed to build the confidence or the awareness or the prophecy of who he was as an artist in terms of his music, we really had to work to make his music the thing that the only thing he can really listen to. Because if you're going to expect that of other people, you have to also participate in that. And that's what we're correcting. Because remember, there are these artists who, like, they'll be making shit and they put it out and then it just goes one way. The communication is just sender, giving, you know. So we are just consuming media. And in order for someone to only just give, there are people in society that then also have to be fixed into just, and that's why we're sitting here spiritually, like, sitting in this obesity, this saturation, this non-movement, this density, right? We're living in that because certain artists that you may even consider like my favorite artist, I promise you, after this switch, you're gonna realize, like, oh my, it's gonna disgust you, because you're gonna realize that you're gonna start having this spiritual discernment that there are certain people that need that don't allow for, don't take back from what they're putting out. So when they say, no, I don't want to, like, I'm going to make art, but I don't want it to apply to my life. I just want to get the whatever I want the art to give me in terms of, like, advancement, but I'm not going to take back my creation. Like, my creation doesn't serve me. It's for others. So if a creation is made for other people, then the people who are going to have to receive that creation are getting fixed. They lose their autonomy. This is what we want to avoid. Absolutism. We don't want some one entity to be in charge of all of your decisions. The biggest thing is we want you to choose honestly. We want visible justice. We want justice to just be what is. You know, we want to see what it is. You know, we want you to be able to choose what you really would choose, because we're never going to know ourselves if we keep limiting what people's natural freedoms really are. You know what I mean? We're never going to know where to start or where to work if we're not able to identify that people have to be able to critique, they have to be able to push back, they have to be able to say whether or not, if I'm gonna have to take what you're saying as an artist, it has to be up to some standard. This is where they're playing. This is where, again, that robbery, you know, that I feel like is so unjust. The thing that I think is that I know in a past life I was responsible for. I know that there were so many institutions that I was earnestly, curiously trying to perpetuate, but they were these lower, baser, like my Pisces South Node in the 11th house, like just ideas of fame, ideas of idolatry, ideas of age of Pisces. Like, I really was a megaphone for that in a past life. And I know how much that, like, had I known the implications, had I lived a long enough life that didn't get cut short, I could have probably taken accountability. But there were a lot of people that were affected by my actions and my abuse of dictating and influencing people in a certain way, by limiting their choice to critique whether or not what I was really giving them was the best of the best, was worth them paying all their attention, mind, and consciousness towards, you know? And I think that a lot of times I struggled with self-image. I struggled with insecurity really deeply in a past life. So imagine the blind and insecure trying to lead everybody and pioneer new institutions based on pure insecurity and not even being able to feel pretty themselves. But I want to define what pretty is. I want to make people, I want to define institutions that show you how to take your image and what you are and your authenticity and create a whole business out of it. Like, I was a big figure in that in a past life. And yet I wasn't even being honest. I couldn't even take off my mask so people could see who the fuck I was. You get me? it's all connected, you know, and I'm transparent about these things with you because I want people to understand that this is what I have died over many times, having to get correct. And this is my lifetime to correctly say that based on my experience, based on my transparency, based on my honesty, and based on the responsibility that I'm taking for myself, based on what I've done before, and based on the way that a lot of people may not know who's really responsible for the things that influence them or affecting them in this lifetime, because of the spearheads that have already since reincarnated are probably living amongst them. The people who started some of the darkest institutions, some of the worst aspects of humanity are living amongst us, having to correct the karma right now. And a lot of us aren't even paying attention to that. Like, this is the revolutionary time. So there are a lot of people that are in these new generations that are coming to rectify and coming to be a part of the positive cause, you know. And I'm holding space for all of that because I am just one of those souls, you know, truly trying to get to that and trying to you know, rebalance some of the things that were so drastically imbalanced in previous lifetimes for me that I died without ever writing, you know. So, you know, to continue to break even deeper cycles, not just earth cycles, but spiritual cycles as well, you know. Jesus Lord, this is so beautiful. This is so fucking beautiful. Because Spirit wanted me to circle back to the point. Do you know what this card is? The Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups. So I was talking to you about how when you're in the Nine of Cups, you're so, just like I just got so lost in how I'm sustaining my own life now. You don't realize, though, that the actual funny part about the Nine of Cups is that the real thing is you become a target for the Ten of Cups. The Nine of Cups, no one's ever really there long. The Nine of Cups is like, okay, turn the open sign on, you're open for business. And indubitably, inevitably, by the end of the night, the idea is that a bar that opens its doors will have at least some patrons come and patron the bar. And the idea is that completes the vision. The Nine of Cups sets you up to say, you have everything in place. All you need now is the patronage, the people to visit. And I think that the funny thing is, this is becoming a business owner in real time. This is how you set up a business for real. Is, you know, you command to you got to do it first. There's also no more of this age of Pisces where, like, we can get people to invest before we've proven it. You know what I mean? There's no, like, loaning anymore. There's nothing to loan. There's nothing to borrow. You don't even have to do that, you know? Because you have an inherent value and you're attracting that inherent value. So it's really just aligning to receiving the inherent value that you are already commanding. Because when we're doing that, now the way that it's working is like my husband and I have set up these finished businesses. And because we were born into an era which was, oh no, like, you got to somehow have a customer base to sell yourself to before you show them what you're giving them. And that always felt wrong. It always felt so hard for me to just, like, make people buy into something before they can know that it's going to work out for them. You know, I don't even think we have to risk that. You know, I don't think trust has to be developed in that way. I think you can trust me because you see that I'm fucking for real. You can trust me because you don't have to take my word for it. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to connect and go and take the time you need to vet out that what I'm saying is not about this being the optimal way to live. There are a lot of variables in my life that people might think of as undesirable. And that could be whatever. But the thing that I am trying to say is, like, what's worth your time here is the reflection. What's worth your time here is the normalizing that, okay, if I don't have to feel as weird that there's someone speaking the honest truth about what it feels like to be a soul in this body and what it feels like to receive all of the shit that is my life and all of the past life shit that is my life that I'm having to navigate, like someone who is like, okay, well, I'm trying to do something with that work, and I know that it was hard for me to come to the point to where I was just like happy to just like get to that work because of all the shit that was programmed in the world. So genuinely as a service, because I'm going to just keep doing this for me for the rest of my life, because it's the only way I can really stay alive is to manage this like aspect of myself as well. Then if really sharing that process like is helpful because I'm going to be doing it and you want to join in, then that's what we're doing here, you know? And it's fucking crazy because, again, the Nine of Cups, you're not even there that long, because once the sign is open, once you're done, once you've set up the table, once the bar is open, the patrons, they can come back all night. We have enough liquor for the whole night to make a whole, and liquor is not really, we're really not talking about channeling. This isn't even a promotion of alcohol. I'm just using an example because we're talking about, like, if it was water. I'm just saying the idea that, like, these chalices are like, she, in this 9 of Cups, she's got the peaches, she's got the grapes, she's got the fruit. She also knows how to create the juice that she serves. And so in that way, now that's the real way that a business model is made. That's the real way that you'd actually do it. So, me and my husband were feeling insecure because we were pioneering this true, authentic way to build a business, which is like, you don't have to get anybody to buy into anything. You don't even have to come into business before you're ready. You can fully develop something. And you might struggle, you might not be rich at X point in time or this point in time or whatever. You have to be open, but if you're really concerned about the value of who you are, this process is the only process there is. So, my husband and I are at this place where it's like, our businesses are completely done, and it's because we wanted to go into business saying, we know what we're giving, we know what we're offering. We know what we're offering works. We know what we're doing is true, because we're going to keep doing it, because what it requires of us is to keep living a life. And the things that we create require us to keep living a life for them to continue to make sense. And Dennis and I are the missing puzzle piece to our 10 of Cups, to our castle. And, the things that we were writing down, I feel like today we are really ready to inherit, and we're really ready to do, because the thing we were so insecure was because there was nobody looking at this while we were making it. There were no followers. We weren't building an audience. It wasn't like, okay, you need to make sure that if you want to make money off this platform or off this channel, that you need to be hitting X amount of engagement. Like, there was no awareness or care about building that. We didn't even expend energy to do that. There is no production value in terms of, like, we produce in terms of what will make the message be conveyed, but we do not spend any ounce of producing that is going to convince someone. I don't have to convince you of anything. You either are inspired by and want to align, or you are aligning with it, or you don't align, or it doesn't resonate, and then it doesn't resonate. You probably be filling your time with what you do want to resonate with. But so for me, there is no critique, because I understand that the way that we built our business model also protects us, because now we don't ever have to deal with people that are out of alignment with us following what we're doing. We don't have blood on our hands. We wanted to find a way to still be these big artists with these big thoughts that want to paint these broad strokes without the blood of other people's consciousness being on our hands in order to prop ourselves up. We want the divine to descend us down into the main stage on a cloud in front of you niggas, and not have to, you guys can stay right where you are. You don't got to pull up to nobody's show. You don't got to go nowhere. You don't got to have an account to do this. You don't got to pay me no money. You don't got to do nothing before you get something first, because I've already gotten what I need out of this. I don't need you to complete this story. I gave myself what I wanted from the world. I gave it to myself. So now whatever comes from other people is their sovereign free will to contribute or give back, but to themselves. You see what I'm saying? To themselves. Because if the things that me and my husband create make people feel good in themselves, make them feel inspired to create more good in their life, most importantly, not just like sitting saturated, but like if it creates movement, then people are going to want to naturally make sure that they can continue to have access to that. So that might be the ways that people support the ventures that we do. But most of what we're going to go on to do is create life, create access to things that we are so deeply happy to continue to learn to source ourselves. And we're going to live off of that, and we're going to commune and share. But what we're going to share is only going to be mostly how-tos. Only going to be like mostly, and my husband just like came through with like, I know the message that was like so perfect for me. But, you know, we're going to come through with this how to do exactly what we're doing, which is to take care of our spirit holistically. And then that spirit will, like I said, the road before the seeker will always stretch out. As long as you're seeking, there will always be a step to take and a road in front of you. And I want people to know that, and I want people to feel like they have friends, cool people that they have access to, you know, because some of us may never really be able to cross paths in line, but this is a way for people who aren't even like aligned to me to still, like, in this lifetime, who are karma, whatever, you can, this is for really everybody, because what you get here is eternal, it's a living word. And so this is like really unreal, because at the bottom of the deck we're talking about the Eight of Cups. So you turned away from the Eight of Cups, which is, you saw the falsehood, you saw the illusion, you're like, oh shit, you're not actually you're gonna start looking at the world like, this person isn't helping anybody to figure out how to fill their own cup up. They're just making you come over here to get drunk off their shit so that they can take, like, you're giving to them. You're filling their cups. They're not doing that. You're coming, they have to take from you in order to fill their cups. They don't fill their own cups up. You fill their cups up. Your attention, your consciousness, your money, your your time, you're filling their cups up. Baby, this channel has been out for over a year and a half. We've been doing this channel for so long now. You guys couldn't have possibly filled my cup up. That was the whole point. I had to make this channel. Dennis had to make his channel in the middle of a drought, because karmically, my viewers, whoever ends up watching this, and because what you are isn't my viewer, you're a human being trying to fix your life. That's what you are. You're a human being trying to connect with people who keep themselves in daily motivation to make sure that this shit keeps going. Because it's hard parenting ourselves. It's hard showing up for ourselves. It can be hard to be alive when you don't feel like you have the proper type of human interaction. And you feel like the technological advances that are supposed to bring you closer and support your life are bringing you further into destruction. That is what I'm saying. Like, for those of us who are at this point, I need to let you know, being in the audience doesn't make you less than me. It makes you exactly like me. So that is why when I made this, I promise you could not have helped me when I really needed it. I was homeless through this whole thing. I had no money through this whole situation. And it's so funny because you're going to see who I am and you're like, how? Oh my God, no, God, like the universe let her be homeless. No, you don't have to be scared of fucking anything. Because it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because the karma, I don't want blood on my hands. I don't want y'all to, you can't make me feel better. This money could not come in until I could make myself feel happy. Not the money, not the people, not any of that. Not until my creations, off the fucking creation alone, made me feel good, made me feel whole, completed me. And that is what Dennis and I had to learn to live off of for like a long time. This wasn't a short process. Like I said, the last 3 years, we've been learning to like live off of Nine of Cups, right? Our own supply, sourcing things ourselves. Now that we've done that, by the time, the floodgates were always going to open. I was not recording these 90 videos for no reason, bitch. The views are about to be busting. It's a non-question about that, but it's about when they're allowed to be busting and why they're allowed to come through. It's about why this many people can now have access to this safely. It's because I wanted to ensure that I am not seeing the benefit, like, you guys were not preventing me to do my work. And then by the time you find me, bitch, I am already where I'm at in my life. So the plans that I'm opening, by the time I gave y'all 3 years of things to digest. So this should hold over everybody for the next 3 years. And then by the time you catch up to the end of what this is right now, what this video is, you will start seeing the things that my husband and I have already now been, because we're getting the keys to our castle. So now you're going to see what the castle was being built. And you're going to, so it's so well timed, you know, because I knew that, you know, I was really incarnating here to lead in this time. So I know that there was a lot of what I'm doing. It's not about it being ahead of its time because of ego. It's ahead of its time because I'm not allowed to benefit from, you're allowed to benefit from it, but I'm not allowed to source my happiness, my joy, and my abundance from anyone else other than me. So this is a PSA to those of you who still believe you have this life path. You're going to have to do the karmic work and look at yourself, because if you at all, and this is a lot of people, because a lot of you became stars in an old paradigm, so people already know who you are. All of you are going to get audited. All of you. And so it's best to start the auditing on yourself, because you're going to be able to feel just as abundant, but you're going to have to rectify that, like, there's going to need to be a cease and desist in terms of harvesting people's the unconscious souls that you've been harvesting, because you have directly been slowing down our ascension process, because I need all of your millions of fans to awaken. and you're preventing that because you want them to continue to pay your bills. Like, you're scared to pay your own bills, you're scared to work, you're scared to what, you know what I mean? You think because you channel something that you are exempt. Like, you can live any type of life you want to live, but you got to be able to source that. You can't, nobody in this new Aquarian paradigm is going to get by off of taking from other people's consciousness, because we're not talking about money. We're not talking about people taking money from people. We're talking about people utilizing your consciousness, which can be anything: your time, your money, your resources, whatever. Like, your preferences. Like, people have, like, the age of Pisces diluted people. That's why also Piscean energy, like Pisces dominant people, Pisces is, it's gonna be, this lifetime is gonna be for you, if you're really in the Pisces energy. Like, you're gonna really have to do a lot of you're gonna be a part of the healing process, absolutely, but you're gonna be really rectifying a lot of, you're gonna just be living through the legacy of what the age of Pisces did for us, and did it really serve us? Because the age of Pisces was the age where we really let things kind of implode, you know. And the age of the Aquarian has a hope that there's like more life at the end of it. So we're rectifying and we're rectifying the learning that we were doing from that space. But I mean, it is really important what I'm saying, and why, like, there is ethics behind what I'm doing here, and there has to be some sort of code of ethics that somebody has to be willing to stand up and say, that we can't just be running rampant, especially taking advantage and abusing people in a time when there is obviously an emphasis on a reflection inward, and people taking advantage of being some sort of, you know, middleman or landlord in the land of your soul. Like, there's nobody who can dictate or determine what spiritual insights you develop. Now, it's a scary and an unprecedented place, and I don't think it's for those of you who genuinely, like, you're tackling new spiritual insights for the first time. I think there is a reason there are spiritual elders, you know, and there's a reason that I know that the knowledge I have is because of the consciousness I was able to carry, and that was able to, like, stay planted in my brain as I went through the veil of unconsciousness in this lifetime. Like, I was always really able to still remember, like, what I was, even if I didn't always know who it was or what specifically it was. And now that I have more of those details, you know, I do want to offer that service where it's like, you know, take it from someone who, you know, not everybody is going to be on the poles of life in terms of, like, danger or harm to learn these lessons. Like, I don't want it to also be a future where humanity has to, like, learn from sharpness or learn from, you know, dis-ease or whatever. Like, I believe in a future where we can work on ourselves, but also be maintaining a level of, not going into suffering. And that's why my lifestyle in terms of my diet, my lifestyle in terms of just, like, what I do, like, you know, it's all got to really be circular for me. And, you know, you'll find that there's no running from that. There's no escaping that. There's no dodging that. You know, everybody's going to come to that, whether you're ready to or not. But lack of dependence, not having to rely on a medical institution, an educational institution, a political institution. You don't have to rely on any of those things anymore, because you can rely on yourself and the blueprint of your soul. And back to this Nine of Cups again, like, you're at the Nine of Cups, but you're not realizing, like, you're so focused on how, like, oh shit, like, I really have gotten to this place where before I start, because the Nine of Cups is like, I gotta test this, like, this needs to get tested before we can just, like, it's like the FDA, like, we're not gonna be able to sell this liquor unless you know what's in it, or, you know, you're not gonna be able to sell these cookies unless we know that they are, like, what is in, you know what I mean? You have to try something. Like, you don't want to just bake a cake and just off top be like, you know, I've never tasted my own cakes, but I'm gonna bake you a cake for you to eat. You know, if you're a cake decorator, you know, you'd have to have vetted that you know how to make a good cake. And so there's a you connecting to and approving of the value of what you offer in the Nine of Cups. And because of that, the Ten of Cups is what I think the age of Pisces was lying, like, not even lying, but putting in the order of operations was really wrong, because again, the communication channel in the age of Pisces just went one way because we were so low vibrational during the age of Pisces. And Pisces is all about the infinite spinning on itself, the fact that nothing really ends. And so Pisces can create an illusion that there isn't another fish, or that there isn't some, like, that it's not like an infinity, like that what goes around comes around. I think the age of Pisces can make people disassociate from that. It can make people think that somehow they're exempt from what they're doing, being self-aware, you know, from, like, receiving, like, you can't just think that you can put out something and not get it back, you know. And that's what Aquarius really says. That's the real difference there, you know. We're not going to just like believe in some illusion or just elude that like, oh yeah, like I can be living this type of lifestyle holding no accountability, but I can be rich and famous and paid for it, and you could be living the same lifestyle and broke, busted, and disgusted, and think that like if you're broke, busted, and disgusted in your character, that and that's what you're receiving, that's one thing. But you know, these artists have been hiding behind this illusion that, you know, that they're not suffering, or that they don't struggle, or that they're like not actually getting back. They're not transparent about like what their life is really outside of their industry or their institution. And so it's confusing people, because it's making people think that, you know, there are some laws of the universe that don't apply. Baby, all the fucking laws of the universe apply to all things. All things. You know, what you see is really what you get. You know, people's behavior is really what it is. Like, you can really see that and decode that and just stand in that and be discerning in that. But like, the first thing we should stop doing is like over praising people. You can praise an artist that truly inspires you, but you that would be identifying the artist, not just their art. You know, we're not just praising art, we're praising creation and the creator and its connection to the creator. You know, if there's something that's worthy of your praise, then there's a creator not far behind that you would probably really connect with. So we're just asking that you go deeper. We're asking that you connect to that source of things, because now what's coming in, I think we were really confused on, like I said, the order of operations. We were thinking that our businesses were failing. I was thinking my channel was a flop because nobody was ever engaging it, and that's all I've ever been told, is that you, before you prove anything, you should be having some big numbers. You should be having people buying from you. And I was working under business owners and people, and I was realizing, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, definitely not. Like, I don't want to work anywhere where I am, you know, making people commit to something before they know what it is, you know. And if there is a level of trust, then like payment being contingent on whether you got the impact, whether you got what you wanted, because that's what's really important. And I'm so excited about where I've been stationed in my life, because the biggest business model, the biggest change that I can tell you that's coming to me is that like this channel is about making sure that you get out of it what you wanted out of it, period. You know, and you're only really going to get out what I put in, right? So if you're attracted to this channel, you're aligned in your desire for what I was seeking when I made this channel and when I was recording all these different messages. But, you know, it was always really important that when I was going into a message, that I was going to get out the answer to the energy I was feeling, you know, and the connectedness to something bigger than myself, or a version of myself that understood what I was tackling, even if in that moment I had no idea how to get around what I was facing, you know. And this is what I mean when we talked about like you're gonna shut down industries, because like one 45-minute Virgo clip, like I'm telling you, like it's just it's all love. It's not even about comparison, because it's just how fast humanity has ascended. You know, we used to have big philanthropic figures like Oprah Winfrey in the globalized West, right, which really for so long would just hold our understanding of like the discourse around soulful living, right? And there's just like so much more that's expanded and operated since then. And if you were to compare like how archaic some of these big icons and these figureheads were to like average people now, like kids off the top 26, we don't even really know what this girl's particular life experience is. And she can spit straight wisdom for 57 minutes in ways that like the not only with the news network not even let probably broadcast, but in ways that like go so much further in depth and so righteously stand up and claim the authenticity of the now moment, beyond just trying to act or gatekeep or keep people down or keep people from getting more conscious than me. Like, bitch, that ain't for me to do. Like, I'm not in competition with nobody. So how radically people change is all for my betterment, because the more peace that's felt on this earth, the less systems of oppression I have to fucking deal with. And I'm really out of them now, but like, you know, really and truly, like, it's not easy, and that friction of that third world always still causes residual pain, regardless of how free and liberated and in new world paradigms we become. Like, we still feel like empathy for those of us who simply like our consciousness being rocked or stolen or preyed upon, are not able to have these breakthroughs in a speed or in a cadence that I think would have been more natural for us. Like, that's what we always have empathy for and compassion towards, because we were very much there. And if I stop doing this work ever, best believe I'm gonna be right back motherfucking where I was. Because the time will keep moving, and I'm not gonna revert, but I will just stay still, and then eventually the context will even pass me. So, you know, it's important that I communicate and connect here in this space and show that I have 5858 so much energy. You know what I mean? Like, I really have the energy and the fortitude to go to distance. It's so funny that I saw 58 because I feel like the 5 and the 8 archetype is like having that childlike energy, but also to do the work. 8, you know, to polish it off, to make this something, to be somebody, you know. And I feel so much in my spirit that like now we're getting the 10 of Cups, now you're getting the 10 of Pentacles, because I can tell you, people would lie to you and tell you to get the house. Why would you want a mansion before you were conscious? Like, why would you want, like, and I mean this because it's imbalanced, because that means you're not receiving it. Like, you can so clearly tell when someone is receiving something that will be collected on. You can tell, because the reality is like, there's no creation moving at a speed faster than I am. So if you're seeing this pick up right now, it's because I'm radically changing. I'm radically moving at this time. But oh my God, it has nothing to, there's no album that's doing better than the artist. Otherwise, there's just a bunch of illusions. You know what I mean? And does that artist really even benefit? Who's really benefiting? You know what I mean? And I think, again, it's just more of these third-party energies. I don't think that there's even really conscious entities that are, like, attacking balance. I think we are so out of balance that these energies dwell. There's possessions that take place, or there's these third-party energies we create because there's so much waste. And waste is starting to take on an energy of itself, which is this, like, to me, it reminds me of my South Node, like, this sloth-like procrastination, like, sludge of just like oversaturation. And it's not even a dark entity. It wouldn't even be alive if we didn't waste so much. But I think, again, we have to start moving again. We have to start moving this energy, moving the debris out of the way. It's going to take with this activation of life to really get this movement. But I think for so long oh my God, I was so scared. This is just so beautiful. The next card that comes out, Ace of Wands. This is like the best message. Whatever, I'm gonna just take some water because there's no rush, and this is my life and these are my videos, and I'm just I mean, man, it is the type of thing where this is very, I keep saying order of operations, but the point of me going through this is always for God's glory, and it's because God knew I would be the type of person to reflect on the true way to make something sustainable. Because we're all gonna it's the same thing. Like, there's business, there's marketplace, there's commerce, there's interacting, there's engaging, but it's just it's meant to look different, you know? The meek really inherit the earth because it's all about, like, our pyramid. Like, those, like, the people, like, there is no worker putting in work for someone else's profit. No worker will only be putting in work for their profit. If you're putting in work, you get the profit. That's the period. That's the point blank period here. You know, it's the same reason why the farmers own the world. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's because the reality is like, you know, the reality is just like not being able to connect that. Like, the only thing is that they can make an illusion that you were somehow separated from what you're doing. No, baby. And you have every right to pull all that power back onto yourself and to live from that space. But there was very much an order of operations here. And in terms of making a successful business in the future, what I'm doing here and what I'm helping people to understand is do it. Like, not even just like they tell you this in the Age of Pisces. Oh my God, just start doing it. Do that thing, that one thing a day, and you'll build an audience and you'll build a following. Okay, we're not building an audience. We're not building a following. That's not what you're building. You're building your life's work. What are you going to tackle? What are you going to commit to doing every day? Because you got to be, why are we here? You know what I mean? This reality where people are like, we're not meant to do anything. No, like, we have why would God give us consciousness if we were meant to really just do the shit, fart, eat thing that most other animals do? We are to tell us, humans are the megaphone for the monkey and the dog and the bird and the earthworm. Like, all of these different species all navigate with a certain level of awareness of what they are, but they don't have a consciousness that makes them like need to study or know what other things are. And we are that conduit. Humanity, mankind is really meant to be the fabric that shows that, like, this beautiful tree of life, because we can be the orator of that meaning, of that origin story, of that connectedness, of that divine thread, because we see it, because we're conscious, you know? And so to me, I'm so grateful right now, because I think that I can tell you right now, like, you know, really focus on authenticity. Don't seek out anything. Most of you, like, let yourself go and work for the leaders who have already, there's going to be such a big burst of opportunities that are looking for people who want to learn from people who've already done this type of work, like myself, like someone who's already said, like, okay, and the work that I've done is not on, I'm not talking about money or job work. I'm talking about the work to identify who I am. So no one can take that from me because I know exactly who I am, and that's why you can tell. And that's what I would tell you to start with first. Start with who you really are. Start with what it really is for you. Start with getting really, really clear and make that your only objective. And then you'll just start automatically aligning because you'll do what you have to do to stay alive. You'll hold a job. But we've got to start divesting, and we've got to call name to the belly of the true beast. And we've got to say that if you're not someone, there are a lot of really decent human beings out here who are really not inciting the violence that I was talking about. And for those of us who are those human beings that for the most part on the day-to-day, like, we don't get by, we have to be responsible for what we get out of life. You are the real superstar. You are the person who has all the answers, because unfortunately, yes, there are things like certain levels of media or influence that are, taking from you. But like in this moment when I can tell you to divest, you also can leave feeling really fucking good about yourself because you have the key. You don't need someone else's consciousness to prop up the work of your life. You are just, even if it's hard, you're still doing the work of your life, which isn't going to go anywhere as long as you're living. So if you're still choosing to be alive, which I'm assuming most of you are, if you're watching this or whatever, if you're going to continue to choose to be alive, know that like you handling your life's work, regardless of the karmic nature of it, is all there really was ever to do. And that's the only way to be rich in this lifetime, is to be connected to what is true for you. And there are so many people that don't know shit about what is true for them, and you don't need them, and you really don't need to keep enabling them as well by providing, yourself. Like, the sooner I can wake everyone up to say, like, maybe just also at the end of the day, it's going to be you having to take your soul back and take your autonomy back and take your attention back and put it back on yourself, and I'm not saying that by, you don't have to cut, things don't have to be addictive. And that's why I made all this media, because people have addictions. And so the other beautiful thing about Dennis and I making, all of these creations and all of this art for people who really had these deep addictions to technology and media is, while we come from stories of addiction, like Dennis and I, if you know anything about us personally, but, the thing that you have to do is you really do need something else to focus yourself on, if you have a really big addiction, you probably have a really big capacity for something. And so a lot of times that depression and that low vibration of the addiction manifests because you just have this really big capacity for something that you should identify. And so again, I'm all about working that so that we don't have imbalanced people, because I could easily be clinically diagnosed with all types of shit if I really didn't do this work that I'm doing here, which is fuck if anybody approving it for me. Like, I need this to stay alive. That's why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Because I get all this crown chakra down. It's so painful if I do nothing with the information. And then I start applying, and then my mind will just start processing it because I'm not doing anything. I'm not moving it. And the mind doesn't want this big ass download in the way of my brain. So it's going to just try to process it. And usually the unknown will get coded with fear via the mind. So that's why I really like the stakes. Like, we're on my ass in terms of doing this work. But you do this work and it's like, boom, when you start to really understand who you are, you're gonna slowly but surely, you won't even be concerned. Like, it's so funny now too that like me and Dennis and my husband are getting the keys to our castle at this time, because the reality was like we actually really let go of focusing on like what we needed or what we wanted. Like, we talked about our long-term visions about like what we believe we would eventually be able to source, and we'd want to source for ourselves, and we'd write that down. But then in the day-to-day, we just released back to the thing that was gonna bring in the revenue, the funds, the abundance that would allow us to have that eventually. But it was all in right timing, because again, this is an offering to people, heavily addicted people who are gonna need someone who could focus on them nonstop, an artist that has enough content and has created enough of a universe that is based on the divine and this health, because Dennis and I are making healthy creations that are about you getting back in tune with all the things that are balanced in this world. Dennis more sonically, and me more, across a lot of different mediums. It's not even one way, but what we were really doing is, the biggest thing that was hard for us is like, we were like creating the things for ourselves in real time, but like as we needed it. So it was like kind of difficult because it wasn't always that there was a message out in front of me that was going to help me through a situation all the time. Like sometimes I'd be like, okay, I got to stop and process this trauma through channeling the message, and then I'd go back and rewatch the message just to get the message. Like it was hard. So the thing that I think is going to be the luxury to the rest of humanity is like, I've created a reality, a persona, a version of myself that can stay with people and never leave their side. And I lost my best friend when I was, 20, and one of the things that I promised her was that I would find a sustainable way for my loved ones who may not be vibrating in the same way that I am, but who really could benefit from me and my energy supporting them and connecting with them, without making it detrimental to me, because some people might not be aligned with me. Some people, like my best friend, she was, she died of an overdose, unfortunately, and ended up taking her own life. And so it was the kind of thing where, that wasn't that wasn't my path. That wasn't really where I was at all in life. I mean, I didn't even really live in the same state as her at the time. And, I felt the guilt of wanting to be there for her, but I also very clearly knew that we were on very different wavelengths. I'm not going to apologize because I wasn't around someone or in an environment that would have caused my own destruction. But I found a way now to, make this sort of archive of myself, or make my art a living work, so that people can always find Alexis, and because I feel like even people who aren't positioned in my lifetime would maybe be interested in knowing who I was, because I've been that person that was, connecting intergenerationally in different lifetimes, where I'd be, much older, and I'd be so inspired by these like new energies that I'd see, because everything is an improvement. Everything is even more, advanced, even more expanded. And so, for the people that would have wanted an opportunity to connect with a human or a spirit or a soul like me, they can get access to what I was giving. As I'm really proud of this incarnation, and I'm really proud of what it is. But I just want to end on like the bigness of what this really is. Like, come the Capricorn full moon, the moon. I mean, this has to do with the cycles. This was all about a cycle. This moon card at the bottom of the deck, I'm just going to hold it at 11100. I'm just going to hold it up to let you know, like, I told you about the 3-year cycle and about the timing of all of this, and I'm exposing here why I timed everything the way that I did. And why it was about, being a rainmaker was really about making sure to find the best timing for all people involved. Definitely align with people and artists and creators, and just energies in your life who are looking for the win-win, because it's always available. We don't have to create paradigms where I win in order for me to win, you have to lose, or someone, because I'm not really winning. I don't really want to do the work. And I think that's what I'm saying. It's not a call out. A lot of people can identify with victimhood, but it's not a call out to immobilize. It's just saying that, like, everyone does themselves a disservice when you take advantage of other people's consciousness. When other people are responsible for making me feel good, I'm not doing anything. You're bored. Like, literally, like, that wasn't the life I used to live. Like, I used to just be bored. I used to feel like I had no stimulation because my reputation would precede me, or everybody's doing the work of holding me up and I'm doing nothing. I'm just receiving all of that and like getting all the benefit and taking advantage of people, but I'm not even challenging myself. And honestly, like, I lived a lifetime of boredom, like feeling like, wow, like, what's the point? Because nothing is stimulating me. And so this life of experience is so much better, because yeah, life is hard, but this is what I was putting on other people to do for me. You know what I mean? In a past life, I was really, the kind of person that was like disconnected from like just what being alive actually took. Like, some of us, we're gonna have to get over being scared that being alive takes work, work that you're well equipped of, and if we stop being so fearful of it, and we stop thinking that that work is reserved for other people who are also having to hold themselves up. See, the thing is, these undesirable populations that people make and put all this extra on are also holding their own life up. So now we've got these super strong people that are about to come out, which I think is like, I'm a part of that population, is just like super fucking spiritually ripped, because people were making me keep their life up, but in this lifetime, but I was also keeping my own life up. So there are people that are just way ahead, and they're the ones who are ready to lead at this time, because they already know what it's like to do the work of life. And now that everybody's taking accountability for themselves, I'm feeling a reduction of the weight. I'm feeling like I don't have to keep everybody up, versus other people might be newly adding the work of life to their plate. Some people have never fucking had to make their life happen for themselves, and not just like get money to secure it, like build it, like do the work. Like, you can have the money, that's always going to flow, but it's now going to be correlated to work given. So when we see those dry ups, like if anything dries up overnight, or if something just like stops or whatever, like, you just got to know that that is something that is getting revealed for like taking that which it was not providing. And that's what you got to really be aware of. But we're ending with, you know, the starting message, which is not only are you gonna you're realizing, holy shit, I am sourcing my whole life that's fucking crazy, and it's all me, and I'm responsible for everything, and I know how everything works. And that's why when this money comes in, when these people start, these viewers, these people who want to know what you're doing, these people interested in what you're doing, that's what the completed vision is. The 10th cup is the fact that you were a bachelor. And what is a bachelor? Someone who is ready for the intention of marriage, someone who is ready to commit themselves to their person. Because a bachelor is really only someone who says, I know my person is around, and I know that whether I had them in my life or not, me being my best self is the thing that's going to attract them to me. So that's what this process quite literally was. Saying, okay, well, regardless, I can't control when the 10 of Cups comes. But the 10 of Cups only comes when you are a vibrational match. You are the best version of yourself. So in order for me to get married to my husband, the fastest way to make that happen isn't to be like, we got to get married and hold on to some third dimensional structure. Just become the version of me that's a wife, and the marriage will happen. Be a wife, and you're not gonna, I promise you won't wait that long. If you're already living as a wife, by the time you get married, that's why we ended up eloping. Our wedding is gonna be in October, but our celebration is gonna be in October, but we wanted to get married because I was already being the wife. I was already we were completely sourcing our life together in union, and it was like, we're ready for that. And as soon as we did that, as soon as we did it first, as soon as we said, which is as I brought up my wedding for a reason. Initially we kept getting, there's a date that I had, October 7th. I was like, okay, that's the date for the celebration, and I could see the celebration very clearly happening that day. But in February, this random download, we gave ourselves 5 days. The download came and it was like, you have to get married on Valentine's Day, the day after I turned 26. There's this that and you have to do everything you can to make this window happen. And this is the busiest day to get married. It's so hard to get an appointment. I was like, God, what the fuck? If this was what was gonna happen, why would you tell me? But there were so many things that needed to just happen. We needed to turn on. We needed to jump into a new paradigm. And so it was almost eventually it was the elopement, the wedding that you see broken down here, the marriage that I was referencing was really oh shit, you're a husband and I'm a wife. Oh, okay, yeah. Then we have, because you can't spend a second not being that. Once you become it, it was immediately we had to go get married. Immediately. And I very much felt that shift. And then the marriage brings in the 10 of Cups, right? Which would be the life together, the missing component to what you've already created. What you finish because you have to complete the whole world. What I'm trying to communicate to y'all is you have to complete the whole world. You have to be big enough to be your whole world. Every aspect, every part, every dollar, everything that you assemble through your vibration, you have to be big enough to encompass all of it. That's what the 9 of Cups says. When you do that, it's not a question. You don't have to worry about when money comes. You don't have to worry about when fame comes. You don't have to worry about when that comes. It comes when you become big enough to house all of that coming into you. So when you become that, then you attract that. Then you're having the 10 of Cups moment, which is look at this angel in the sky. It's crowning fucking glory. It's oh shit. It's that is the moment that people talk about when their life changed, when they were discovered, when nothing was the same. That moment you really hear people talk about, but they don't tell you how it actually happened. You were already what you were going to be in that moment of discovery. In order to bring on some faithful acting career, even if you just started making your first movie because you were discovered, you had to become the actor, the method actor that could therefore take on these roles in the future. You already have to be that in order for people to start looking at you and say we could cast you in a movie. This is what I'm saying. In order for me to say that I want to be some speaker, it's not about you don't have to make a loyalty program. You don't have to force people to follow you. Just be it. Just be that. And then that's when the 9 of Pentacles says and you're going to be marveling over the fact that you did that. And then boom, all of a sudden this major contract, the keys to your castle, you're about to pull up to the keys of your castle. And when you do that, once you get the keys to your castle, which is when everything inside of you is now reflected outside of you, you get to now just go ahead and take your crown. And that's what I mean. It's going to be really beautiful because I see ourselves by this Capricorn full moon already taking our crown. And so that means between now and then is this whole process of receiving the keys to the ancestral abundance and receiving them because I was able to give this message, because I was able to be clear about this, because I was able to really see this and understand fully what was going on. It was going to be important for me to come back and say this, like, this is what I was developing. This is the hypothesis that I was trying to conclude. And I feel like 90 videos, like, I feel like I'm there. I feel like this is really the stopping point for me. And this is where I really kind of said everything that I need to say, because from this day forward, the money's coming in, and so then I don't have to, I'm not going to really be producing things in this exact same way, you know. I'm going to have, I won't be on survival mode trying to get these messages out, you know. So there's going to be a lot more ease for myself, but the brunt of what I've done, you know, the pace that I've had to go at, was to give myself this buffer. So now my life can really be, you know, updates and beautiful and connection, but I can also just really tap into living the life that I'm living, knowing that everyone has me, everyone who's going to need me in the coming cycle, you know, as things really turn over and become anew, I'm there for you. This is my way of having capacity and showing up for my family and everyone who's going to awaken to things that maybe at certain times I was really trying to tell them that they couldn't hear because of their density. Like, this archive is for them, and then they can really go at their own pace. Like, this is like having an online class that you can flip through at your own leisure. And now that people have access to something like this, they're gonna, I mean, I'll see them in no time at the castle that I'm now gonna get to be building, awaiting their arrival. So I'm really excited because, you know, another big announcement is I'm excited for October, for the big unveiling and the big opening of everything, and just all the movement that's coming. But this is really exciting. Thank you so much for, I want to sign off by saying 90 videos in 3 years. This is what I could get done. You know, the Capricorn full moon is coming up on July 3rd, and I feel like this was how much I could do. And remember, I feel like I gave a message in one video where I was like, it's never about what you didn't complete. There wasn't something to complete. It's always just about what gets done is the abundance. Like, this is a 90 video catalog that I have given that covers every corner of ascension that I knew, you know. And I hope that this is a living word, so that there is no, that this word is what people build their words off of, but it never becomes obsolete. It never becomes outdated. It never becomes, you know, unnecessary or not able to continue to live in different times. And I just want to thank everyone who finds themselves at this video 5 years from when it's posted, you know, like, just for the people that this library helped you get really close to who I was, close to who my husband was, that it helps you, mostly importantly, get close to who you are. Like, I can't thank you enough for you. It's not that you didn't matter. It's not that you didn't have a way to change my life. You did. The promise of your voices at the end of this vision is everything that kept me going when I had no money, when I was being evicted, when I didn't know where the fuck we were going, and I, you know, just felt like every turn was like drought, despair, death. Like, the promise that there were souls who had praise and thanks to give, that when it was hard for me, like it was for everyone, I chose to like take that pain and transmute it not into just art, but into something that could help someone else. And that's extra work that you don't have to do, but you choose to do, because it's not like, it's, our world's only going to move forward for people doing more than their capacity. You know, there's, on this channel, I'll tell you, the only requirement for you in this life is to do your soul's work and to be here and to understand who you are. That's all that's required of you. But everything that goes beyond is that devotion we have for source, for our own selves, for our higher selves, for our spirits, for this dance that we get to do, for the gifts of this earth. That's why we go above and beyond. That's why we do for others. And that's why light won, you know, in this paradigm. But I am so fucking grateful to every single person who, you know, don't think for a second that like it was pain. Like, I was also good. Like, I have to tell you the facts and the circumstance of my life, but I've had the best 3 years of my life. I promise you, it's been the best 3 years of my life. I have not gone without one bit. You know, and I try to be very forthright with that, and I try to be very honest and open about how this all really is going to come together. But my life is forever changed from this channel, from the promise of all of you ascending, the promise of the world that we're going to be living in very soon, you know, very quickly, because you guys are going to ascend so much quicker than even I was able to move at. You know, I think my soul wanted to go as fast as it can, But, you know, my body and the resources were limitations, and, you know, there are still limitations, I'm sure, even when people view this. But if this can alleviate some limitations and normalize certain things about connecting to yourself in this way every day, whenever you need it, every moment, whenever you need it, like, I'm here. And, you know, my husband and I really always want to be available in this space. You know, I'm not always going to say that life won't take me, you know, to, you know, I may or may not be available all the time, you know, because I know my life is going to be guided by the work I got to prepare next, you know, and so I'll always move in that space. But I wanted very much for everyone to clear their mind to think that I could have ever left you. I've never left anyone that I've ever loved or cared about. You are all held in the intention of this baby and this child and this creation, and I hope you see reflections of yourself endlessly through this video, and through every video in this 90 video series. I'm so grateful for the work, for the output, for the love, for the support, for the joy, and honestly, big congratulations. If you're at this video, you understand, you're aware, you know, it's clicking, you know what you need to do. And that, I think, is what we were all yearning for. Is like, what do we need to do? And I feel like I know I found my purpose at the end of 90 videos, and this is really, I couldn't think of a more conclusionary, like, message to have, which is like, time is up. You know, Virgo Saint, you know, will always be, you know, the archive that it is. But, you know, in terms of messages, like, I think this is one of my last messages for this archive, and for this series of evolution, because the 3 years has come. And so I'm just so grateful for myself, for the growth that Virgo was happening long before this channel came in. You know, I'd had to be really committed to this work. But just want to end on the final message, which is reaching for your crown. You know, you now have the keys to your castle, and you have everything you've built. You're sourcing it on your own, and the Fool now just gets to put on a crown, because you are now the king, queen, ruler of what you jumped into, what you took a leap of faith on all those cycles ago. You know what I mean? What you really believed in. When you had all these truths, I just saw the Seven of Swords. I was just trying to pick up the deck to show you, but the Seven of Swords came out, right? It's the times when you had to believe in the truth, even if it felt like you were stealing from yourself, even if there felt like there's no immediate payback from this, even though if it feels like, is this true? Is this even doing anything? It is absolutely doing something. So be blessed. An hour and 26 minutes. What a special message to give. I'm just so grateful. I really couldn't be more proud of myself and my growth, and I'm excited for a day of ease, and to receive this abundance for myself. But I'm really proud of this final video and the final message. So thank you all so much, and be blessed, and enjoy this archive, and to more life. Have a good one.